Okay, so we're ending this semester with the drama section, and typically I end the semester with the drama section just to give everybody a more enjoyable unit for the last couple of weeks. Considering everything that's going on around us right now, I feel it's even more pertinent that we sort of enjoy the rest of the semester. So we're going to be doing a combination of watching movies and analyzing the scripts of those movies, which should be something that gives you guys a little bit of entertainment, at least in comparison to everything else that we've done throughout the semester. But this PowerPoint presentation that we're going over is the same as we did with the poetry section and with the fiction section. We're just sort of defining some of the terms and vocabulary that you will need to properly write your drama analysis, which will be due at the end of the semester. All right, so just going into some vocabulary right now. Starting off with the word of the day, we have drama, which originates from the Greek word dran, meaning to do or to perform. Dramatic depictions are shown through the creation of plays, which are stories told through the words and actions of characters. Now, this is a critical distinction that we need to make between dramas and other types of literature, such as poetry or fiction. Stage plays do not have the same luxury of providing the audience with the character's internal thoughts and dialogue. So, everything that we find out when we're watching a play as the audience, we find out through character action and external dialogue. So, it's something to make sure you're considering through your analysis. Everything we learn as far as analysis is concerned is through character action and external dialogue. Plays themselves are written by playwrights, of which Shakespeare is one of the most famous ones. And sometimes those playwrights write plays that are meant to be read the way that you read a novel, right? That are not meant simply just to be performed on stage. They wrote it as a piece of literature, and in that case, it is known as a closet drama. Now, throughout this PowerPoint, we're going to be using the example of Snow White, and that's because the characters are easily recognizable, and because there's not many people who don't know the story of Snow White and the seven dwarves. If you don't, it's about a princess who runs off to live and work with seven dwarves, who are named after their personalities, while an evil witch is trying to find her and kill her with a poison apple. If you need any more information about it, you can Google it. Anyways, a script is the written text of a play and usually looks something like this, with characters' names tagging lines of dialogue and action. Attached to a script, you'll typically find a list of characters, and in an actual program that you would receive at playhouse, you would also have the list, which would include the names of the actors as well. So the actors that are playing the characters are known as the cast. The characters themselves are known as the play's roles. All right, so you can see the corresponding names up there. Obviously, these names are random. Snow White, played by an actress, Mary Rodriguez. Prince, played by an actor, Harry Collins. Witch, Old Lady, played by Susie Sparks. Magic Mirror, Robert Smith. So on the right would be the cast. On the left would be the play's roles. So in a script, the lines of dialogue that are being spoken out loud are going to be the most important content. All right, that's where you're going to learn the most about characters. The second most important content are the stage directions. Stage directions tell the characters how to act or show their feelings while they are delivering their lines. They also help to describe the story's setting. All right, so everything that you don't learn from character dialogue, you're going to learn through stage directions. Stage directions within a script are typically set in parentheses or brackets to set them off from the actual character dialogue. So you can see an example up there where it says Snow White, a line from Snow White. Now, obviously, this does not mean that the actor playing Snow White or the actress playing Snow White is going to say out loud, smiles when she sees the shiny red apples. Those apples look delicious. Can I have one? In reality, the words within the parentheses are stage directions directing the actor to smile as she is delivering the line, those apples look delicious, can I have one? For actors to create a believable atmosphere and setting for the audience, they typically need more than just a costume. Outside objects that lend to creating the reality of a story are known as props, which is short for properties. Almost all stage productions are going to have actors using some combination of props to help with the believability of the production that they're putting on. And obviously, this usually depends on the stage production's budget, right? The lower the budget, the less props you're going to have, and the more they're going to ask you to use your imagination. Now, plays are typically organized in a similar style as novels. Now, authors of novels usually divide their novels into chapters, right? All the books that you guys read, most of them are divided into chapters. Now, authors sometimes also create further subdivisions within chapters by breaking off various sections using, asterisks or dotted lines or something like that. Now, the equivalent of chapters within a play are acts, right? And the equivalent of those subsections within chapters for plays would be scenes. Now, acts are the main division of full-length plays. On stage, the end of an act is usually indicated by the curtain falling or the house lights turning on, and maybe they'll tell you that you can, go to a concession stand or something like that. A change of scene is usually indicated by a change of location on the stage and maybe the lights dimming a little bit. Now, many times short plays that last, under an hour, will be written in a single act. In the case of one act plays, the entire play typically occurs in one location, unfolding in one continuous scene. Other dramatic terms you might want to know for your essay include theme, which you've discussed before. Again, means exactly the same thing that it means in any genre. It is the central idea or meaning of the play. The realistic depiction of setting or the location of the characters within any particular scene of a play is extremely important to a drama's success. Suspense is also very important for stage plays. With suspense, playwrights can control the audience's ability to feel an anxious uncertainty about what will happen next, which is going to keep them on the edge of the seat. So it's something to be able to analyze. How is suspense created within a play? Exposition is the name given to those moments in a play where we, the audience, receive the background information we need to understand the characters and circumstances of the story's plot. And lastly, because plays are very visual, the entire construction of a play's script consists of a combination of exposition, action, and dialogue, or the verbal exchanges between characters in the play. So again, dialogue is going to be the thing that you're going to want to pay attention to the most for your analysis. So just like in fiction, the plot of a play is the arrangement of incidents or scenes that gives the story a particular focus and emphasis. Most lengthy plays are going to also have some sort of secondary storyline that takes place beneath the main plot that itself reinforces or contrasts with the main plot to bring emphasis to it. This secondary storyline is known as the subplot. All right, subplots are something that you would notice if you maybe are watching a TV show, all right, and over the course of a season, you have one continuous storyline that starts at the beginning of the season and continues straight through to the end. But in each individual episode, you might also have a storyline that starts at the beginning of that episode and ends at the end of that episode. That storyline would be known as a subplot to the overall plot that is going on within the show's overall season. The protagonist of a play is the central character that the audience identifies with. The antagonist of a play is the character or group of characters who stand in opposition to the protagonist. We've talked about both of those terms already in relation to fiction. Now, a term that we haven't talked about that is related to protagonist and antagonist is foil. Now, a foil is a character whose behavior and values contrast the protagonist. So a foil can also be the antagonist, but is not always going to be the case. There's many times where a foil and the antagonist are actually separate characters. The perfect example is any sort of superhero duo, Batman and Robin. Batman and Robin, in that comic book, Batman is the protagonist, and Robin is his foil. Robin is also not the antagonist. All right, so he's a sidekick. He ends up being the person who's meant to emphasize Batman's characteristics. Okay, so reading a play is a lot different than reading a story or a poem. So the aim in writing a story or a poem is to have you, the reader, understand what is happening based strictly on what is on the page, what's on the piece of paper that is in front of you. Plays are meant to be depicted on stage. So the construction of a play is meant less for sitting down and reading one and more for having it being depicted visually in front of you. So when you are reading a play, you have to keep this in mind and you have to sort of adjust your imagination accordingly. So we're going to go over some tips to help you with the reading of the scripts that you guys have to read over the next couple of weeks. Okay, first of all, you need to read the play. I know this might seem pretty obvious and something that shouldn't even be stated, but it's something that also a lot of students tend not to do. We get to this section of the semester, I tell them to read the play and compare it to a film of that film version of that play, and they just watch the film and then move from there. And it becomes very, very obvious as you're reading the essays which one of you have actually read the play and which one of you have just watched the film. All right, so read the play. Okay, the aim in reading the play is to simply just get an idea for what is happening and what you can compare to the film itself. Okay, so that initial reading will give you an initial understanding of the play, and I actually suggest that you read before you even get to reading the play. Maybe read a summary of what the overall story is about, because understanding what the whole story about will help guide you as you're reading the actual script itself. All right, so as you're reading the play, make sure that you are also actively trying to figure out what is happening. All right, have a clear idea of where this play is going, who is who, and in that, at least in that initial approach, just make sure that you understand the basic arc of where the play is going, so that you again have something to compare the film to when you sit down and watch it. Now, plays are typically organized in a similar style as novels. Now, authors of novels usually divide their novels into chapters, right? All the books that you guys read, most of them are divided into chapters. Now, authors sometimes also create further subdivisions within chapters by breaking off various sections using, asterisks or dotted lines or something like that. Now, the equivalent of chapters within a play are acts, right? And the equivalent of those subsections within chapters for plays would be scenes. Now, acts are the main division of full-length plays. On stage, the end of an act is usually indicated by the curtain. As you're going through, make sure you're keeping track of the major plot points, okay? Because a lot of times when you're reading a script, there'll be major plot points and even subplot points that as you're watching, say, a scripted version of a filmed version of the play, might not have made that final cut. And that's something that you can start to analyze. Why did they maybe cut this scene that was in the script but was not in the film? Why was that scene cut? What purpose could the cutting of that scene have done for the effect of the film? And finally, read the play aloud. All right, now I know this is a lot to ask you to read the play silently to yourself and then go back over it and read it aloud, but it doesn't need to actually be read aloud. You simply have to see it being read aloud. In other words, watch the film. Okay, when a drama is performed, it becomes almost like real life. You bring your own interpretation of each character to the role. So as you're watching it and reading it, let yourself become the characters, react to the other characters in the story, and try to immerse yourself in their roles so you can really do a full analysis of whichever play it is that you choose. Okay, so we have two that we're going over for the end of the semester, Shakespeare's Othello and August Wilson's Fences. All right. For Othello, we will be watching a stage production of the play that is some very good production value and is actually fairly recent. So we're not gonna be watching a really old movie as I used to do in my last couple semesters. Also, for August Wilson's Fences, we're gonna be watching a very recent film version of it that was actually starring Denzel Washington, that was nominated for a bunch of awards and it is a very, very good movie. Okay, so hope you guys enjoy.